What's up, fellow bike nerds, and welcome back to the Weekly Rewind presented by 99 Spokes, where we catch you up on all the hottest cycling news from the previous week. And while the racing world definitely has their eyes set on the mountain, and of course road side of things, it's been the gravel sector that's got the product attention. In fact, we've got 5 all-new gravel bikes we're covering this week. First are 2 new models from Pinarello, the Dogma GR and the revamped Gravel F. Up until now, the Dogma name has been reserved for Pinarello's flagship road and mountain bike lines. But now, that legendary racing pedigree has made its way to gravel. The Dogma GR, which Pinarello is calling, quote, the lightest ever gravel bike, has a sharply sculpted head tube and a wide down tube, both of which should help divert air around the bike and rider. The high mod carbon frame has a claimed weight of just 960 grams, and the lightest complete bikes tip the scale at just over 16 pounds or 7.3 kilograms. But it does lack some of the creature comforts that a lot of us have gotten used to. For instance, tire size is limited to just 42 millimeters in the rear, and there are no fender or rack mounts. That said, there is a small in-frame storage compartment located high in the down tube. If all that sounds just a bit too hyper-focused for you, you might be more interested in the fully redesigned Gravel F. Now, don't let the inclusion of pannier racks fool you. Pinarello insists that speed was still at the forefront of the new design. It gets 50mm tire clearance, slightly more relaxed geometry, and yes, a full array of gear and rack mounts, as well as the same down tube storage compartment I mentioned earlier. Unsurprisingly though, both of these will set you back a pretty penny. The Dura-Ace equipped Dogma GR lists for a whopping 14 grand, and the base model Gravel F3 comes in at $3,700. Now, I realize that probably none of us will ever be spending that kind of money on a new bike, so let's transition to some more affordable options. The next 2 bikes come from Whyte. The Vero and Taurus both share the same aluminum frame and feature relatively middle-of-the-road geometry, fender and rack compatibility, and a 50mm tire clearance. Where they differ though is in part spec. The Vero is going to be more adventure-oriented and gets a 1x12 SRAM mullet group set, 50C Maxxis Ravager tires, and a Trans-X dropper post. The Taurus leans more toward the touring or all-road side of things with a 2x10 Shimano GRX group set, 45C Maxxis Rever tires, and a rigid post. Prices for the 2 bikes are £1,800 and £1,300 respectively. Our 5th and final gravel bike from last week comes from Ridley, who just launched a pedal assist version of the Astra. What makes this release stand out isn't just Ridley's move into e-gravel, but the drive system they chose to do it with. The all-new TQ HPR40 was unveiled at Eurobike earlier this month and features an ultra-compact motor and battery, making it an ideal match for the gravel sector. The motor puts out 40 Newton meters of torque and 200 watts of peak power and comes with a 290 watt-hour battery. Haven't been able to find any claimed weights of the complete bike, but with the e-drive system weighing just 6 pounds or 2.7 kilograms, you can bet it'll be one of the lighter options on the market. Other details on the e-Astra include a sleek one-piece cockpit, full internal cable routing, 52mm tire clearance, and some relatively conservative geometry numbers, highlighted by a 71.5-degree head tube angle. It's also a bit lacking in the storage compartment, with no gear mounts other than the 2 water bottle mounts inside the front triangle. The Ridley e-Astra is available in 3 different builds, starting at €7,199, or if you'd rather, you can use Ridley's custom bike configurator to build your dream bike up from a wide range of components. Let's switch now to the EMTB side of things, a bike that I'm pretty dang stoked about. That is the Devinci E-Spartan Lite. I got to spend some time on this bike's little brother, the E-Troy Lite, and it was one of the first EVs that managed to win me over. The E-Spartan Lite looks to share many of the same traits, including a Bosch Performance Line SX drive unit, Canadian-made aluminum frame, and a pretty impressive value. Where it differs, of course, is intended use. The E-Spartan Lite comes with a mandatory mixed wheel setup and 165mm of travel in the rear, paired with a 170mm fork. It's also forgone the high pivot suspension layout found on the analog Spartan for a lighter, sportier 4-bar design. I'd imagine that this, combined with that 27.5-inch rear wheel and some pretty dang short 436mm chainstays, should make it one of the more playful and agile long travel e-bikes on the market, and that makes it high on my shortlist to try out. Drop us a comment if you'd be interested in seeing us try to get a review in of this bike in the future. Our last new bike from last week is honestly a bit of a head scratcher, and that is the all-new Orbea Muga. Orbea is pitching the carbon full suspension e-bike as a, quote, adventure-ready urban explorer. And it reminds me a bit, both in purpose and in looks, of the specialized Turbo Taro X. It features a 120mm fork paired with a discreetly hidden shock, delivering 115mm of travel in the rear. There's also a nifty integrated rack system that's compatible with a wide variety of aftermarket cargo accessories, and the head tube even features attachment points for a front rack as well. Powering all this is a Bosch Performance Line CX motor and your choice of either a 600 or 700 watt-hour battery. Lastly, Orbea has gone all in on safety features, including integrated lights built into the fenders, bars, and frame, as well as a digital lock that fastens the motor when activated. The Muga is available in 3 different builds, ranging from €4,999 to €7,099. Time now for the deal of the week, where I've perused the dozens of deep discounts we have collected on 99 Spokes and picked one of my favorites. This time around, it's 25% off the Gen 6 Trek Fuel EX, which puts the price at $3,200. I have a friend who owns this exact bike, and I've had the opportunity to get some laps on it, and I've loved it. The wide range of geometry adjustments makes it exceptionally versatile, and its smart component spec, including a Shimano XT group set, Fox performance level suspension, and Bontrager line comp wheels, guarantees peace of mind just about anywhere you point it. It even gets in-frame storage, which is still pretty rare on aluminum bikes. The one slight drawback for some folks, though, might be the heavier weight that comes from the aluminum frame. If that's you, have no worries, because Trek actually has an even bigger discount, 30% off, on the carbon-framed 9.8, which gets the same components but swaps the alloy frame for a carbon one. I've left an affiliate link to Trek's website in the description if you're interested in checking one of these out for yourself. Moving on now to industry news. And surprise, surprise, we're talking about big wheels once again. And that's because 32-inch tires have officially found their way onto the Cross Country World Cup. The prototype bike testing them was spotted under BMC rider Titouan Corot while practicing at the Andorra World Cup this last weekend. It's worth noting that Corot is 5'10" or 178 centimeters. So the notion that these bigger 32-inch wheels are only going to be for the tallest of riders seems to be going out the window. The bike itself was clearly labeled as a BMC, and by the looks of it, was a standard 4-stroke in its past life. But now those fancy carbon tubes have been sliced and diced and paired with some aluminum lugs to make the necessary geometry adjustments needed for the larger wheel. In addition to the one-off frame, there's also a highly customized DT Swiss F232 fork with a long dropout extension to make clearance for the larger wheel. The most interesting thing for me, however, was the stem, which clamps above and below the head tube. This was done to provide plenty of stiffness and durability while also dropping the bars low enough to preserve similar stack heights to a 29-inch bike. Now, at the time of recording this, I'm pretty sure that this bike is not going to be raced this weekend, but instead just getting some practice time, as well as, of course, some attention on the new bike. But I think it's safe to say that 32-inch wheels are looking like they're going to be here to stay. Another prototype product that broke ground in Andorra this weekend was a new gravity tire from Schwalbe. The new tread pattern looks to be one of their most aggressive to date, with 2 rows of tall, blocky lugs down the center and equally massive offset lugs on the shoulder. The design is not unlike the new Maxxis High Roller 3 we saw come out earlier this year. Other than that, I don't really have much else to tell you, and Schwalbe hasn't made any statement about this tire either. But when we learn more, we'll let you know right here on the Weekly Rewind. Next up, SRAM continued its acquisition streak this last week by picking up Ochain, the small but influential brand behind the Active Spider system that's been quietly revolutionizing how gravity riders manage pedal kickback. If you've ever ridden a long travel bike, notice that harsh chain feedback when landing or braking, Ochain's tech helps mitigate exactly that. The product has been a favorite among elite downhill and enduro athletes, and now, with SRAM's backing, we might see that concept baked into suspension designs from the factory. For now, Ochain will stay based in Italy, and SRAM says they'll be investing in new R&D. It'll be exciting to see what the engineers at Ochain come up with next, now that they have the financial backing of one of the biggest cycling brands in the world. Our last bit of industry gossip is a fun one, and that's the People for Bikes 2025 City Ratings, which just came out last week. These rankings are compiled by using open source mapping data, city infrastructure info, and real-world ridership trends to score how bikeable a city actually is. Big winners in the US were Brooklyn, New York, Davis, California, and scoring a perfect 100, Mackinac Island, Michigan. On the international front, Paris came in with an impressive score of 89, and unsurprisingly, the Dutch managed to secure 6 of the top 10 spots. If you think your town or city deserves to be on the list, let us know what it is in the comments. Time now to wrap the weekly rewind up as we always do, and that is of course by sharing a little something that got me stoked that I hope will do the same for you. And this time, how can we not talk about the Tour de France? And more specifically, how well the small contingent of US riders are faring. I've always been a Quinn Simmons fan, and he has clearly been on top form so far this year. Not only has he been an important domestique for Jonathan Milan, but he's also secured himself an impressive amount of sprint points along the way, including those from a tight second place finish on the 6th stage. Matteo Jorgensen has also been impressive. Obviously, his primary goal is to support Jonas Vingegaard, but he's managed to still keep himself in 5th overall, at least at the time of recording. Sorry about the slightly biased coverage there, but hey, it's not all that often that us North Americans have something to cheer about on a grand tour. And on that high note, I think we'll go ahead and wrap up this episode of the Weekly Rewind. Thanks as always for watching, and until next time, remember that bikes are for everyone. Have fun out there.